Anyway, so I wanted to hear more about your very interesting case. Your very interesting
My
case.
very interesting case is
Yet
how do you know
another
your
one.
siblings are your siblings?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you got siblings, Joe? Have you got
Yeah.
brothers and
Brother.
sisters?
Yeah. 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 I got brother. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know he's your brother?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you got evidence to prove he's your brother?
Have I
Have you seen his
doc-
birth certificate?
document? No, I haven't actually. It's a good point.
No.
No, it's not.
See, it
I think
comes
he's
up
not.
in a number of cases, this, where people who I speak to who've got brothers and sisters, I talk to them about their brothers and sisters, and they go, "Oh yeah, there's so and so and so and so and so and so." But Billy, who's born first, was born before the marriage, so he hasn't got the dad on the birth certificate.
Okay.
And so, if the money has come through dad, they don't get anything unless they've been formally adopted into the family. They've got no evidence to say that he's the father. So, and it comes as quite a shock to some people in that they've got no idea. Mum and dad have never talked about it. They've always been very vague about when they got married
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when the children were born, and that's why. And
Interesting.
quite often, they're these people who are illegitimate. Mum and dad have only ever given them the short birth certificates, which is just like a little
Yeah.
square certificate that's just got the children's details on. Whereas some of the others have got the full certificate, which have mum and dad's details on.
Yeah.
So you'd never know until you got your full birth certificate, you know. But of course, if dad isn't on the birth certificate, they're only registered under the mum's name. If the parents aren't married and both are on the birth certificate, then you're registered twice on the indexes under the father's surname and the mother's name. So sometimes people, brothers and sisters, might be illegitimate, and so they are then half blood to the other brothers and sisters. So people are classed as full blood if they've got a mother and father in common, half blood if they've only got one parent in common. Okay, so that's half blood, full blood.
And that's really important when it comes to the rules of intestacy, isn't it, Eileen?
It
Just
is, yeah,
as we know.
because
We know.
full blood come first, and it's only when there's no full blood relatives is that when there's half blood.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons you need to know. And of course, if you were illegitimate, then mum and dad got married, they may well have adopted you.
Yeah.
And one of the ways of doing this is to check this is to get a copy of the birth certificate. If you've been adopted, it will have adopted written in the margin of your birth certificate.
Yeah. Does it actually stay
Um,
adopted, or is it A, or is it sort of some sort of
No,
short?
it says adopted
It
in
says
big
adopted.
black
Sorry.
letters. I'll show you something. Let me just show you one.
And I guess going back to what you were saying earlier, that particularly, going back a few decades, there's sort of that social shaming element to it, isn't it, as well, of, not wanting people to know and, yeah, just sort of
This is it.
letting as few
Yeah,
people
this is
know about it as possible.
yeah, so this is it. That's what it looks like, if you can see that.
Yeah, it does
It
say
says
adopted.
adopted,
Yeah.
and that's how it looks on a birth certificate if you've been adopted
Okay.
out
Which
of
is
the
which is good
family.
because there's no way of getting that, misinterpreting that.
No, but of course, if you're a solicitor and you've got five children of supposedly of the deceased, you wouldn't think to perhaps to ask for their birth certificates.
Yeah.
But if you got a copy of the birth certificate, it would say for certain that they were adopted.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And of course, again, if they're adopted in, there'd be an adoption certificate. So, and then of course there's the infamous informal adoption, which you don't get
Yeah.
so much anymore. Probably before adoptions came in 1928, you used to have informal adoptions, but they weren't formalized in any shape or form. So even though the child may have been brought up by a family and known by that name, they're still not formally adopted. So they're still part of a different family.
So I remember speaking to you about before I did a video once about adoption. Legally, you can only be part of one family. You can't sort
You
of have
can.
one leg in
Yeah.
one family and one leg in the other.
No,
You're
no.
either in that
See,
family or you're
you
not.
know, yeah, I do have to speak to people and, I have to have a chat with them just to confirm that they were adopted out. And
Yeah,
they'll say, yes, but he's my birth father. And I
yeah,
say, well,
yeah.
that's very true. He is, but legally, you are now part of this other family.
Yeah, because you had that case, didn't you, where the man was in hospital.
Yeah, the
He then
guy in
became
Salford.
executed in the
Yeah.
hospital and
Yeah,
not very
the
messy,
son
isn't
had
it?
been adopted out, but
Yeah.
when he got to 18, he'd
That's,
changed his name back to his birth name,
yeah.
and his father had given him as his next of kin. And of course, the hospital just presumed he was right because he got the right surname. and he wasn't. He
Yeah.
just changed his name back, but that doesn't legally make you
Yeah,
his
yeah,
son
yeah,
again.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't
Want
reverse
to
an
go back now?
adoption.
Yeah, it's too late. Yeah, yeah. God.
Yeah. So the interesting case I've got, I had to get 7 birth certificates in the end to work out who was who.
Okay.
So we've got the guy called James Owen, born in 56, dies in 2020. So I get his birth certificate, gives his parents as Harold and Marjorie. I then go onto the birth indexes and look for any other children. I find their marriage first of all in 55. So I then go onto the birth indexes and look from 55 to 75. I always do a 20-year period just to make sure you catch all the children,
Yeah.
especially after war years, because you can be, there might be a big
Boom.
gap.
Yeah.
And I found children born, 7 children born between 56 and 66. So I started looking for them and I found one. And I thought, this is really odd. I looked for infant deaths, no infant deaths. I looked for emigration records, but you can only really look at those up to about 1960. So that wasn't really a possibility. And I thought, where are they? So I found one. So I gave this guy a ring and explained it was his brother, and we had a bit of a conversation about that. And then I said, what about your other brothers and sisters? And there was this long silence, and he said, well, do you know the family story? And I said, no, I don't. I don't know anything much about it. I just know that these 7 children.
You got your
And he
notepad,
said,
don't
oh,
you now?
well,
Yeah.
mum and dad get married and have these 7 children. And then in about 1967, mum disappears and no idea where she's gone, never heard from her since. And I've done extensive research trying to find this woman, and there is nothing for her. The
Yeah.
only thing I can find for this woman is 2 newspaper records in the Manchester Evening News, one in 71 and one in 81. And they are, the first one's from a solicitor looking for her, gives quite
Yeah.
a few details about her. And the second one's from social services looking for her. Now, they're obviously looking for her for something to do with the children, but nothing else. And this son that I spoke to said he never saw his mother again, he never heard from her or anything. So I still don't know actually what's happened to her. And then dad remarries in 1970, but it's a bigamous marriage because I've checked for a divorce and there's no divorce. So she's obviously run off and he's remarried 3 years later. Anyway, but when mum runs off, dad can't cope. So the children are taken by social services and fostered. So we've got the first child who's our deceased, and then we've got Denise, and she's passed away after our deceased, so her estate is a beneficiary.
Yeah.
And then we've got Lester, who's the guy that I spoke to. He said, oh, but some of my brothers, my other brothers, were adopted. So he said, you need to speak to Roger. Roger will be able to help you. So I said, oh, right, okay. So I spoke to Roger, and Roger said, oh, no, I've been adopted. I was adopted by Mr. and Mrs. So and so. And they looked after my other brother, but they didn't adopt him.
Okay.
Right, okay, it's getting a bit more complicated. So in the end, I order all the birth certificates because I just don't know what's happened to any of them. So the last 3 children born 64, 65, 66 were all adopted. So they are then no longer beneficiaries to their brother's estate. So we leaves with 4. So I know that one's alive because I've spoken to him. I know that one's died, Denise, because the brother has dealt with that. And then we've got this one that I don't know about. And so I spoke back to Lester again, and he said, oh, well, I think he changed his name. I think he changed his name to Roger's surname. Right, okay. So I have a look for him, can't find him, but find a death certificate. So I order the death certificate, and the death certificate has both names on. He's changed his name, but he's not done it by deed poll. He's just done it, like you can do. You can
On the
just say
whim.
from now
Yeah.
on, I'm going to be known as so and
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So out of the 7 children, we've got one that's alive, one that's died who's got a son, so the son will take a father's share, and the other one, the sister, has died after the deceased, so it's her estate, and Lester dealt with her estate. So there's 3 beneficiaries: an estate, somebody who's alive, and a niece. So that's where we're up to with that one. But it took me quite some time to deal with it. But we've still got the problem in that we don't know what happened to mum.
Yeah.
We've got
What's your
I've got a date of
what's your gut
birth.
feel on that? What's your gut feel on that?
I've had a look at the family on her side to see if I can find anyone I can talk to. and there is nothing. There's a few family trees online, but
Yeah.
they all go to a dead stop. There's a couple of things we can do, see if she's died or whether she's still living, but I haven't had a reply back from those, and they're quite slow at the moment. So in the end, I talked to the solicitors, and they said they will accept a claim from one of the relatives if I can just give in all the information about the mum, and we'll
Okay.
have to take out a missing beneficiary indemnity insurance for the mother. She's born 36, so she could well be still be alive, but we
Yeah.
just don't know
We
where
just
she
don't know
is.
for sure. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
The
It's
last newspaper record I have asking for her in 1981 calls her by a different surname, but I've tried that different surname as well, and there's nothing. I have a tracing tool as well that looks at names and addresses, and I can't find her at all. And that goes back to sort of 95,
yeah.
but I still can't find her. So I think she's changed her name completely. Perhaps she's in care, and so she's not registered to vote, and therefore she's not on my tracing tool. And I think that's the most likely explanation.
Hmm.